Hello, everyone. Welcome to opening night of ATX Television Festival Season 10. I'm Jennifer Morgan, Director of Programming for ATX, and this is Laura Kincaid, our Director of Operations. Laura, can you believe we've been doing this for 10 years?
I really, truly cannot.
Well, we have the gray hair to prove it, or at least I do. But tonight, our inner teens are thriving, and we are here to celebrate one of our all-time personal favorite series, Degrassi: The Next Generation. How are you feeling right now?
I am feeling all of my emotions. All of my feelings are happening right now. I am so excited. I'm a little bit beside myself. I'm trying really hard not to use my hands too much in this intro. I am pumped.
I know, not to be corny, but I literally can't get the smile off my face. As somebody who has watched a truly obscene amount of series over the last 20 years, Degrassi might be the most formative. It's the one that made me fall in love with TV in the first place. And to be able to get this group together for opening night of year 10 is a true bucket list moment. I'm definitely going to get emotional about it if I keep talking. Whew.
Well, I totally understand. But do you think that they're maybe tired of hearing us gush about them already?
Probably. Should we get on with it?
Let's. But before we bring out our moderator, this is your friendly reminder that all 385 perfect, amazing episodes of Degrassi: The Next Generation are streaming right now for free on Tubi. We are extremely grateful to have Tubi as a supporting partner for this year's festival. But now let's get on with the show.
Please welcome our moderator and fellow Degrassi obsessive, Lewis Petzman, whose writing has appeared in the New York Times, Vulture, and Time magazine. Hello, Lewis.
Hello. It's been a whole pandemic year and I'm still figuring out Zoom, but thank you for your patience. I'm here.
You're doing great. We're gonna let you take it from here.
Great. I just want to welcome everyone again to the ATX Television Festival's Degrassi: The Next Generation 20th anniversary reunion, sponsored by Tubi. I am thrilled to be here, like so many of you, and certainly people on this panel. Degrassi was a huge part of my adolescence, kind of defined my high school experience. My friends and I watched a lot of Degrassi, and I did dress up as a Degrassi character for Halloween. I was Toby. All of my friends dressed up, actually, we were those kids. And as much as I'd like to talk about my high school experience, I know we're all here to hear from the people who helped create the fictional high school experience of Degrassi: The Next Generation. So I'm going to go ahead and bring out our panelists before I bore you too much. I'm going to start with the co-creator and executive producer of Degrassi: The Next Generation. Please welcome Linda Schuyler.
Thank you, Lewis.
Hello, Linda. Next up, we have executive producer Stephen Stohn.
Welcome to the program.
And we also have writer and executive producer Aaron Martin.
Hello.
Hello, Aaron. And finally, he was a producer and a director. You might also know him as Archie Snake Simpson. Please welcome Stefan Brogren.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Lewis. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. This is 100% intense for me. Linda, I want to start with you because it did all start with you. You co-created the first Degrassi series, The Kids of Degrassi Street, in 1979. This is probably an obvious question, but could you ever have imagined what the franchise would become back then?
Lewis, it is, for me, we are celebrating my 41st year of having worked on Degrassi. Not continuous, but it was 1980 that the first Degrassi went on air. And let me tell you, we had no idea that Ida Makes a Movie was even going to start a single series. It was just a one-of at the time. And it grew into a series called The Kids of Degrassi Street, and then into Degrassi Junior High, into Degrassi High. Then we took a bit of a hiatus, and then we came back with, as you said, 300 plus episodes eventually of Degrassi: The Next Generation. And it still amazes me to think back. I mean, my career began as a junior high school teacher. I taught for 8 years before I became a television producer. And you're quite right. I had absolutely no idea that we could be here today talking about such longevity that the series has had.
Well, we're talking about, Degrassi TNG, and I know that there are a lot of fans here. Let's talk about sort of that reboot and how that came about. I mean, what was the origin of Next Generation, and why was that the right time to reboot Degrassi?
Well, it's interesting because when we closed out what we now call Degrassi Classic, which would have been like junior high and high, with schools out. My creative team at the time, Jan Moore, Kit Hood, and myself, we just figured we were done with school, we were done with teenagers, we were finished. And in fact, we went on to produce other shows. Interestingly enough, started to miss teenagers. I've always loved working with teenagers, started to miss them. And then at the same time, two very interesting things happened on our national broadcaster, CBC. One, there was a talk show called Jonovision, and he decided on Jonovision to do a Degrassi reunion. And it became the most watched Jonovision that there had ever been, and created a whole bunch of excitement about Degrassi. Meanwhile, CBC were running Degrassi, the classic shows, as a strip after school. And a whole new generation had passed by, and a whole new generation were finding this show. So what with the great excitement on Jonovision, the high ratings they were getting in the strip that was happening every day after school, we thought, and at first we didn't even think we were going to start Degrassi again. We thought, you know, it really is time to start developing another teenage show, which we did. Didn't use the name Degrassi until one day my writer, Jan Moore, came in. He said, okay, Linda, I've been in the shower. I do a lot of thinking in the shower. And I think I've been thinking about how old Spike's baby would be. And Spike was our pregnant teenager in Degrassi Junior High. He said, I think her baby Emma is about the right age to go to junior high. And with that, the penny dropped. It was like, oh my God, we're not just going to come back with a teenage show. We're going to come back with Degrassi, the Next Generation. And we're going to link where we were in the 80s to where we will be in the beginning of the 2000s. And there began just this amazing, exciting, wonderful project, and the opportunity to meet all these great people here. And it's just been unbelievably wonderful.
So, I mean, nowadays you see this all the time. You have reboot series and continuation series that years later bring back these, beloved characters with a new generation. But Degrassi Next Generation was very early with that. What were the discussions like in terms of which characters to bring back, which storylines to reference? How did you kind of decide what to link and why to bring Snake back? Not that we're not grateful, but like, how did these discussions happen?
Well, it really was that whole discussion about Emma that was pivotal. And interestingly enough, I'll just tell you a brief story about Emma. We won an Emmy for the Degrassi Junior High episode, which was called It's Late. And that was the one where Emma, Spike found out she was pregnant. And when we won the Emmy, my partner at the time said, and we're going to name Spike's baby after the Emmys. We're going to call her Emma. And so we had this character, Emma, who we knew was about the right age. And so therefore, it was a brilliant link because we were able to link her into Spike, and Spike and Snake had an interesting relationship in junior high and high school. And with Snake came the opportunity to bring the Zip Remedy back with Joy Jeremiah and Wheels. So we thought, okay, it was a very exciting opportunity for us as producers, because we were able to think about who would be great to bring back from the old series. And then we had a blank slate, because for Emma and all of her kids, we had the opportunity, all of her friends, to recreate a whole student body and do it at a time when the internet was just starting to take off, which hadn't even been heard of when we were in the classic show. And that's when we met the wonderful Aaron Martin, who was just fresh out of the film school at, which one was it, Aaron?
The Canadian Film Center.
That's right. And it was so great because Aaron had been a fan of the original show. And then he joined us as a young writer and brought so much energy and enthusiasm to helping us develop this whole new wonderful cast of characters.
Yeah, I mean, you guys hired me fresh out of film school, and it was a dream job. It was, I'm so lucky, and I owe my subsequent career to both of you. So thank you.
Well, and if I may say, I was a fan of Star Trek, the original Star Trek, and of course came back as Star Trek: The Next Generation, and hence the name for Degrassi: The Next Generation. But I remember thinking the original Star Trek was the best Star Trek of all. Nothing could be better than William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy. And of course, I was wrong. Captain Picard carried on in The Next Generation, really won over a new generation. And that's sort of what happened with Degrassi. When it first came back, it was successful. People liked it, but a lot of people were saying, "Ooh, it just wasn't as good as the old show. It wasn't as good. They just don't have the same kind of authenticity. It's a little bit too glossy. It's different." And of course, after about a year, that changed, and the series really took off.
I think fans of Star Trek probably guessed you were also a fan when you named JT, James Tiberius.
Exactly.
I want to ask about fan reaction. You really, the original series, obviously had some controversial storylines, and you jumped right into things, the Next Generation, with a, internet predator storyline. I guess, what was the reaction like back then, and what sort of, were there controversies like early on, or what did it take a while for people to kind of feel bothered by any of it?
I'm not sure that Canadians get controversial about those things. I think there's definitely a difference between Canadian audience reactions and American audience reactions. I mean, I think the storyline that really created controversy was when Manny had an abortion. That's the episode that wasn't aired originally in the US. And that, I feel like abortion's always the issue that divides people. I don't remember a lot of pushback on our storylines.
No, and in fact, in Canada, it was like a non-issue. I mean, abortion, okay, because it's just not an issue in Canada. And indeed, the broadcaster, originally, they'd seen the script in advance, and they knew what was happening in the Manny storyline, and they'd been okay with it, but they got really nervous when the time came to air it. And so they just never aired it. They never said anything. It wasn't until several years later, as part of a retrospective, that they slid it in, and they added a panel afterwards to have a discussion because they were so worried about the episode.
And I think what had happened was, as Stephen said, we had developed the script along with our broadcaster, and they all thought it was important, but it was due to go on air. And I think the year was 2004. And that was right at the time when abortion was really coming back into the forefront as a debate. And there was a huge women's march in Washington, and there were a lot of pro-lifers along the way. And so it became, when we had developed the story, the environment was less hot. And when it came time to go on air, the broadcaster just got very, very nervous about it. And similarly, when we were doing the classic show, when we did the abortion episode with the twins, which was a very well balanced episode, our partner at that time was WGBH Boston. And again, they had nervousness, even though they had worked with us on the script, and we ended up having to recut an ending for them just to tone it down a bit. And I think those are both episodes of abortion are the times where it either didn't air or it got modified to go to air. Those are probably being the most controversial.
But you talk about being balanced. It was really balanced. I mean, talking about the Emma and Manny storyline, Emma would not have existed if Spike had had an abortion. And so you've got one best friend talking to another best friend, and Manny eventually decided to go through with the abortion, but we were able to carry both sides of the debate in a very balanced way. So we felt very good about the show.
Yeah, but don't forget also, every time that I feel like Degrassi has sort of breached the conversation, you guys, the stories have grown in a way that are with the times. And if you even go a bit into Next Class, and the way that we were, first of all, that's maybe the first time I saw pushback when we were dealing with Netflix, and that was definitely late in the game and not really part of their MO, it was definitely the next step in storytelling. You were going to go into the room for the abortion. None of that would have happened without the twins, without Manny. And we were also showing a decision where she was feeling less guilty than maybe we've shown in the past. She was like going to school, and we did have to sort of take the American side into consideration and how the system works there versus how it works here. Because like Aaron was saying, I think Canadians have a different perspective when it comes to this sort of thing, and we always have to sort of take a second look, knowing that there might be pushback.
It does seem like people in the US definitely have more hangups. Although I do want to mention and ask you, Stefan, you were the first person to say fuck on Canadian broadcast television.
I was.
And I just wanted to know if you had any reflections on that important moment in Canadian TV history.
Well, okay, listen, first of all, I didn't know that they were going to air that version. I think we did several versions where it was like, Joey Jeremiah bonked Tessa Campanelli and Joey Jeremiah screwed everything. And then we did an F-bomb version. And I don't think anyone, I mean, maybe Linda, maybe you knew, but I didn't know until I saw it that they put in the F word. And it was like one of these things where I'm pretty sure it just went like this. And it was, I mean, it was just it felt like we just entered a new age of television. I mean, it was pretty exciting. It happened after a certain time on CBC, which they allowed, I think, the idea of stronger language. So the first hour was before that, and then the second hour sort of, I think they allowed them to open the door. Anyways, I'm very proud of it.
Well, and it was a very highly rated episode, but the CBC showed it and got great ratings, but they never showed that version again. They've never used the fuck word again.
As a teenager at the time, because I think I'm a year older than you, Stefan, it was very, very impactful. Everybody talked about it afterwards. Like, can you believe they said that on Degrassi? And little did I know that I would be, part of it a few years later.
Yeah, and let alone that when you talk about Schools Out, that's what we're talking about. It is one of the. I'm sorry, Linda. It's one of the most depressing endings of the show ever. It really sent us out into a world where we're like, I don't know if you guys are all friends anymore, and someone's in jail. That person might be blind. But let's just say that is definitely a part of Degrassi, is like going out on an episode with a lot of the issue still to be discovered. And characters change because of that, and that is a very Degrassi thing, I think.
Well, I'm glad we got to talk about that, because obviously that was an important moment, not a TNG moment, but still one that we remember fondly. I do want to bring out some more of the actors to kind of get our panel continuing. So we have several cast members joining us today, and I'm going to bring out the first group. First up, he played Gavin Spinner Mason. Please welcome Shane Kippel.
Woo! Yeah, I'm here. Hello, everyone. I was excited for this.
Next up, you know her as Paige Michaelchuk. Say hello to Lauren Collins.
Woohoo! Hi, everyone. Those were such nice introductions before. It's very, very happy to be here.
Next up, we have Daniel Clark, who played Sean Cameron.
Hey everybody, I'm super excited to be here as well. It's so awesome to see all of your faces. I can't believe it.
We have a season 2 edition, but an OG in our hearts. He played Craig Manning. Say hello to Jake Epstein.
Hey, what's going on? Thrilled to be here.
And you have a very classic background.
It is. Yeah, it's a very. I just moved, and it's just an explosion of items and everything. So you put down a sheet. It's very calm.
It looks very self-tapey.
And I'm auditioning right now as well.
For this panel.
For this panel. We'll see if I make it.
Okay.
Next up, she played Hazel Aden. Please welcome Andrea Lewis.
Guys, I'm very excited to be here.
And finally, you remember her as Terry McGregor. We have Christina Schmidt.
Hello, everyone. This is so exciting. It is so nice to see everybody.
It's really amazing to see you all. It's super surreal for a Degrassi fan. From the cast, like, how many of you haven't seen each other since you were filming? Have any of you not seen each other for a very long time?
Yeah, go ahead, Shane.
No, you go ahead. You spoke first.
Yeah, I think I've seen Lauren the most, and there are a lot of faces here that I haven't seen in a very long time. And I can't believe it. I'm kind of geeking out right now. It's like a blast from the past, but I mean, you all look so fantastic. I can't believe it.
Everyone looks very, I didn't want to only single out Jake's background. It was just, you know, I noticed the very classic blue background, but you're all looking great and you all have very well composed backgrounds. So I didn't want anyone to feel left out.
But mine is maybe the most composed of everyone.
Well, I mean, I'm sitting in my my girlfriend who's a ballet teacher. I'm sitting in her little studio, so enjoy the tutu on the wall over here.
Oh, that's what that is. Cool.
That's also what I do by night. So.
Lewis, I want to know, is your background from when you came to visit set, or is that just?
No, this is a photo.
A little generic.
I found online, but I do have a photo of us at the Degrassi set. I don't want to talk about me. You're not here for me, but I did go to the Degrassi set for my 30th birthday. Lauren took me, and it was a pivotal experience for me. I want to ask you all, how many of you remember your auditions? I know it's been a while, totally okay if you don't, but I would love to hear if you have any audition memories.
I don't know if I remember the actual audition or if it's just one of those things that like I've seen it so many times now because they are circulating on YouTube that like, you know, is it the memory or is it just the video? But I do have memories of the screen test. You guys remember that?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
We were like mixing and matching, and it's where that's definitely the first time I met Aubrey, which I'll never forget that. So I do have memories of that and like auditioning for different roles. I auditioned Ashley and Paige, I think. And yeah, that I remember.
Sorry. I just wanted to know how many of you had auditioned for different characters and you ended up playing, and if you were tested for different roles.
They knew the second I walked in the door that this is the only guy auditioning for Spinner. No, I only auditioned for Spinner. I had my initial monologue, which is where I met Linda for the first time, and Celia Stasinassi, who played Yik Yu on the original series. But I was so blindingly nervous at that point that it was only later when the dust settled and I knew I had a job that I was able to understand who I actually met that first day. And then my screen test as well. I remember meeting select cast, some who didn't get the roles, some who did. But yeah, as for auditioning for, I wish I would have auditioned for Craig. That would have been a fun.
I wish we did too.
I know Adamo auditioned for Craig.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I feel like Marco was maybe just created after meeting him. Maybe Aaron could speak.
You're absolutely right, Lauren. It's really interesting because some of the characters we went out and we knew exactly who we were looking for, and we tried to find them, as like Shane talks about with his character. We knew, we'd found you. It was just perfect. Some of you, we thought, oh, they could go that way, it could go that way. And with Adamo, we really liked him, but we didn't have an existing character written. And in fact, if memory serves me correct, Aaron, I think we just brought him in as a break dancer for one episode. It could be because I remember we had him play that role. In the meantime, we had also written the character of Marco. I think maybe Aaron, you were the first one to write Marco. I don't remember. And we were auditioning for Marco, and we hadn't even considered Adamo for it. And then we watched Adamo in the rushes from, I think it was some kind of Halloween special or something, I don't remember. And we thought, oh my gosh, he could be our Marco. And that turned out to be one of the most, like, all of you were brilliant casting, but Adamo and Marco were just so perfectly aligned. And, but we didn't see what was right in front of us right away.
Yeah, but he did
and we did not know that Adamo was gay, and I don't think Adamo knew he was gay at the time that we cast him as Marco.
No. Yeah. I hope that Adamo is the person we talk about most who's not here.
I just want to keep talking about Adamo this whole time.
So you would assume Aubrey, and I feel like we don't have to go down that route. We can talk about Adamo while he's on here. But I do want to hear from all of you. I really want to know which of you did the mall tours. And if any of you remember the mall tours.
I think
never forget.
We all get,
Never forget that.
We did. I have a memory of Aubrey and I going to Madison Square Gardens to do. It was a rare one because it wasn't a mall tour. It was in Madison Square Gardens, which was crazy.
Yeah, I was there. I was there, Jake, for that one. I was.
That's
in the
right.
audience.
And because of, my memory is that because of the number of people that surprisingly showed up for autographs and hugs and stuff, they split Aubrey and I up on opposite sides of the room, and they told people, you have a choice. You can either go and get like, you know, Jake Epstein, Craig's autograph, or Aubrey Graham, Jimmy's autograph. And I always, like, it makes me laugh so hard because I always think about like all the people that maybe are like, wow, that I could have like hugged young Drake and wanted some Craig. It was
But maybe some of them went, you know, I got to hug young Broadway Spider-Man. You
That's
know,
right.
Yes,
and
seriously.
you know,
Or,
look at it that way.
Hey.
you know, Umbrella Academy. Well, I mean,
That's right.
Yeah, come on.
Andrea, you were also a mall tour veteran. What do you
Yeah.
remember from that experience?
Well, my first one was with Lauren, and I remember we had no, like, we just didn't know what to expect. I don't know if you remember this, Lauren, but we held hands going out.
Yeah, it was terrifying. It was terrifying.
And like both of us are actually very tiny, and so I just remember feeling like very small, like just because it was really loud, you didn't know what to expect, and it was one of those experiences where it was like you got just as much love, but also I remember people coming back up and being like, my brother wants to also give you his phone number and his email, and like, can you add him on AOL Messenger? And you're like, no, I actually cannot. But it was exciting. Like, I don't think I had realized the impact of the show until the mall tours, truthfully.
Well, this was not what we
This
were
is not-
experiencing at home.
no.
Right?
Like,
Like,
any real way. So yeah, going to see that and experience it. And then I even remember going to San Francisco with the Damo. Even when we went to Vancouver, Lauren, we went to Vancouver together, right?
oh, that was so
like-
fun.
That was like, but like more than half of our fans there were from Seattle. Like, so it was, you kept having this very strange experience of realizing like, oh my God, it's like a cult following in the US. And in Toronto, people are like, oh, whatever, I saw her at Yorkdale, no big deal. Like, they didn't.
So what I'm getting is that fans in the US just have less chill than fans in Canada.
Well, there's also, the cast is so large. So I feel like everyone of a certain age, everyone's former roommate was on Degrassi. Everyone's like, oh yeah, my cousin's on Degrassi. Like everyone had some, like, such a show that's ingrained in the city. So I think that adds to maybe part of why people don't care as much here.
But I remember, like, when I was on a few of them. I can't even remember which one was which. But I was in Atlanta. I was in Denver. I was in New York with a few of you. Jake, I know Jake and
Oh,
Andrew
yeah, we
were
were in
there.
New York too. That's right.
Yeah, and it was just that energy. As soon as you walked out into the signing area, the atrium, and you saw that line, and a couple of them spotted you, and you just, it was infectious. There would a couple cheers, and then the entire thing would erupt. And you would hear so many stories. Oh, we were waiting in line for 8 hours. We drove for 12 hours to get here, and it was just, what is going on? Because you really, like, no one. It's not that no one cared in Toronto, but no one was starstruck really when they saw us. But as soon as we crossed that border, it was unbelievable.
Well, and I feel like the way we made the show too was so, it was like all of our second high school. So there was a very relaxed vibe to it. It felt like a hobby. It felt like an after school amazing program we were all in. It didn't totally feel like we were on a TV show.
It was very much a bubble. Like, we existed in this little bubble, and then that's why the mall tours were so.
And then when we went to the US, it sort of opened our eyes to the fact that there were a lot of people watching the show and loving the show.
I was going to say that this goes back to Degrassi Junior High even. It felt like a summer job. We had really good friends, but it felt like high school friends. This is something about Degrassi, and I think something about an ensemble cast, where it really is everyone sharing a responsibility and story and a character that makes everyone sort of feel a little bit even, and also just makes you feel like you're at summer camp.
Plus, you guys didn't have to work like 13-hour days, 5 days a week. You guys sometimes you guys would have weeks off where I wouldn't see you Or you'd come back and you'd be like a foot taller and be like, uh-oh, we wrote that story. That's not going to work anymore.
I did have a couple Twitter questions that I wanted. You still have a lot of very, diehard Degrassi fans. Helena on Twitter wants to know, Daniel, people are very concerned that Sean died in combat. Can you dispel those rumors?
I doubt it. I don't think he did. He's probably home safe. I hope not. I mean, does anyone really think that? Like, that's
apparently this is a concern that people have.
I dream that there is a Degrassi reboot, and there should be a Degrassi reboot, and that Sean, you do come back. And I know Emma has married you, Shane, but I just don't know. That was one storyline that I just never quite got. I mean, you're a great couple, but I can imagine Daniel coming in on a motorcycle and Emma, the look in Emma's
just got sold out, Shane.
Yeah, well, I mean,
just got sold out.
Every time I get to interact with a fan about that question has come up more than anything else, which is like, how did you feel about Spinner, Emma? And I've had to, I've become accustomed to it over the years, but I still think that there was some, it wasn't full closure with the Jane story. So there could be a nice little crossover there if you bring all four of us back and then we swap spouses.
Was that in Degrassi Takes Manhattan?
Yes. Yeah.
We did
Degrassi Takes Manhattan or Degrassi Goes Hollywood. It's not canon. That's what I said. Right?
Says you. Those stories are full on Degrassi. They are moments in lives that go crazy. I'm not saying that because I directed them. I'm just saying that people have moments like that. Right, and they go crazy, and Emma and
we'll pull back from this. Sorry.
Yeah, there were a lot of questions about Spinner Emma. There was also a question, Shane, about if you know what happened to Kendra.
No, I don't know. We're more like pen pals now. We're still old school, just swapping, written letters. But my mom never told me. She just didn't come home from school one day, but she's safe.
I do want to bring out, we do have a few more panelists that I'm going to bring out, a few more of the later additions to Degrassi. So these are our final panelists. First up, she played Claire Edwards. Please welcome Aislinn Paul.
Hi guys, thanks for having me.
Next up, you know him as Drew Torres. Say hello to Luke Billick.
Hi everyone.
And finally, last but not least, he was often by Aislinn's side as Eli Goldsworthy. Please welcome Monroe Chambers.
Hi, everyone.
Probably has the most quarantine hair of the group. Not in a totally complimentary way. It's very impressive.
Yeah, thank you. I blame my father.
So I wanted to ask for the later cast members coming onto the show as sort of the next generation of the next generation. What was that like in terms of fan reception and joining the show? What was that experience like for you?
Well, it was very interesting because I was very young. I was still in middle school when I joined the show. So I was kind of just a little bit too young to have really watched it and know how much of an impact the show had. To me, it was like, a TV show that was being made in Canada and aired in the US, and my parents had been on a couple episodes. And so it was just this fun new job that I had. But for me, the biggest impact was more coming in and having a cast of kids, young people that I was meeting, because in the past on other projects, it's mostly just adults and then me and my dad, being my guardian. So to come in and sort of have a peer group who's all doing this thing, that was the first kind of revolutionary experience I had with the show. And then the impact afterwards of seeing how it's received when it airs and having the kind of connection with people online when Twitter came about and people are following me and talking to me about the show. That was such a new change and such an interesting thing to have this very, very direct contact with the people who were watching the content that we were making. It was very new, but very, very cool but also a little bit scary. I think there was part of it that felt like there was a direct impact from what we're making on set on young people. And there's a lot of responsibility there too, to make sure that the content reflects them and that they feel appreciated as an audience. And that was something entirely new for me.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to ask about sort of the online response. I got several questions. There are still a lot of Eclair Stan accounts that have a lot of questions for you and for Monroe. So, I mean, I guess when you were on the show, there was definitely more, fan interaction that's continued. You talked a little bit about how that's positive and negative. But in terms of, because I do want to do something for those Eclair fans, do either of you remember a specific episode or moment or scene that you had a great time filming or that you felt like really resonated with those fans?
I think the bench scene was one I remember resonating right off the bat. I think that was when we knew that there was real texture between the chemistry, and we had worked together previously. We played siblings in a film a couple years back, but I think that was one of the first scenes. And there's also a scene in class, and I was Eli's trying to get Claire out of her shell a little bit and trying to show her courage and show her personality and what her passions were. And so I think those initial scenes, I just remember hearing a lot about those like that there. That's personally what I thought.
Yeah, I think while shooting it, it was apparent to me that there was like a lot of dynamics and a lot of sparks, and I was enjoying the work that we were doing together. But I wasn't really thinking quite yet about how it was going to be received. It was still more of like what is this? What are we making together? And like, what's the relationship and the dynamic here and how the characters are working together? So then when it was received so positively by an audience, that was almost shocking, because it was like, whoa, I just, this is just another part of the same show. To like have such response just for this couple was really exciting. And it also was very validating, because I think we felt very good about the work that we were doing together too, and like putting a lot of heart into it.
On a purely shallow note, I want to ask about style journeys, because I feel like everyone on the cast had some really exciting style journeys. I wanted to know if you have a favorite, if you have a least favorite. Is there a look that you wish you could erase? Anyone can comment on this.
Shane got you hairstyles.
Yeah, so
Shane.
It was known, I guess, unofficially later on or throughout the show as going through every possible male hairdo or unisex hairdo that someone.
You were searching. You were searching.
We were searching
everywhere.
For the right one.
Who you were.
We landed on the faux hawk near the end, which was fine. But the flock of seagulls hair flip is something I don't think I'll ever fully live down. And I remember the cast was trying to be so supportive when I still remember that the hair and makeup door was locked, so no one could see the process as it was going on. And then when I emerged, and Melissa McIntyre was actually the first one who saw me, and it was just like, I like it. And everyone there, you could see that there were like 4 or 5 things that people wanted to say before they said the generic. You make it work. No one made that work.
I definitely have more style questions, but I do also have some substance ones, and I wanted to ask about some of those more intense storylines and playing those also when you were quite young. Christina, I was wondering, I mean, you were in a storyline that was very heavy. What was that experience like when you're, an adolescent yourself and you're playing this really fraught relationship?
Oh, it was at that age, especially, I wasn't even aware of relationships actually being like that. And at the time, I'd done a little bit of research into relationship abuse and domestic abuse. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's a real thing. And that was intense. That was very, very, very intense, especially channeling that actually happens to people. And till this day, I'll still get messages saying how impactful being Terry and helping them through the same situation in their real life. So it was absolutely wild and very intense.
Yeah, and for any of the rest of you, were there any storylines that you felt like you really had to put in extra research? Obviously, the writers were doing a lot of that, but in terms of making sure you got it right, was there anything that kind of you did extra work on?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like everything. Like I guess for my character, the bipolar storyline was something. I know I had a meeting with Linda, and you sort of taught me about what that was, and it was. I mean, it was really through conversations with you, and I did some research. I had a family member who'd experienced something, and I remember. I mean, sorry.
I was going to say, I think we brought in an expert too. I think we brought in somebody, a doctor or somebody in mental illness that you were able to talk to and ask questions about.
You're right. And there was a lot of the writers. I remember there was just a lot of support and a lot of people to talk to. And as a young actor, it was very exciting. It felt like the first time to really do something other than myself. And it really felt like we were portraying something that other people were going through that could be helpful, help people feel like they're not alone. And it was really special to shoot that.
To jump on what Jake was talking about, something for me that entered my personal life that I had no reference for, I had no information, was Adam's storyline. And to be a part of that with Aislinn and to really dive deep in that research and understand something that was completely foreign to me, and now to have a family member who is transgender, it really educated me. And I really hope that, from my personal experience of learning from, to get into the character and just acceptance and really understanding that, I hope the audience really understood that as well. So for me, it was huge for what I didn't realize was going to happen later on in my life. But I'm so glad to be part of that. And I think that's one of the great things about all of us being part of the show, is that we're learning different things at such a young age. And I think it should be like that. You're learning about things that aren't being talked about, and especially at that time, a lot. I had no idea. And then when we got to meet Chaz Bono and we got to sit into that support group in Los Angeles, I believe it was, that was absolutely massive. And so to be part of that and to be a part of Jordy's incredible storyline and her amazing work portraying that community, it was really, really special.
Yeah, I think I was always deeply, deeply impressed by what Jordan brought to the table, because she was also very young when she was cast, and she walked in, did the work, did the research, brought so much sensitivity and thoughtfulness to the part, and in ways that some other people might just go for what's very stereotypically male. I think she was so conscious of making Adam a fully rounded guy and have like more sensitive moments, have funny moments, have like be a full person, because that's the best way to honor Adam as a character. And I think she did such a wonderful job. It was such an honor to be able to witness her work, and I felt so protective over that character and really grateful that I got to be part of those storylines.
Luke, obviously you were a big part of that as well. If you have any sort of thoughts about that storyline or your experiences on the show with that.
Yeah, 100%. I think kind of to tag on with what Aislinn was saying is that when you were working with Jordan and you were doing these scenes, it wasn't like it was a character being portrayed. Jordan was living this, and being on set, it was kind of infectious, and we all kind of just all dove right in with her. And yeah, no, it was a pleasure to be on set. I look back at those scenes that we had together, and kind of like what Monroe was saying, it sets you up for knowledge to go forward into the future. And I think that's one thing that Degrassi did so well, especially for like younger people. Like, we were all so young. It taught us things that we didn't have the opportunity to. But yeah, no, there's so many different experiences with this show, and obviously with these great group of people. I only had the chance to work with the two of you. I met the majority of you, but I know it was definitely a beautiful experience. Loved every second. I can't stop smiling looking at all your faces. So
we worked together once.
Well, we had one
and Monroe, yeah, one fantastic scene that I got to spend with both of you. But yeah.
Clash of Generations.
Yes.
A lot of people want to know sort of if there would be a future reboot or a next Degrassi. If you imagine what your characters would be doing now. I'm sure you get that all the time, but have you given any thought to sort of where they might be?
Drew's the principal now, of course. There's only one way to go up. I'm taking over. He's the principal. That's it.
I'm liking that, Luke.
Bye-bye.
Stefan's out.
Bye.
Snake is the superintendent of all the schools.
Oh, he's totally the janitor now, I think.
No, I think that's fair. He's the custodian.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I think what Steven said about the love triangle between, Sean and Emma and Spinner would be kind of crazy. I think that like audiences saw so much because it was an ensemble cast. Every single person found something in one of us to relate to, and I think that like if there was ever like a reboot or a reunion or something, it should be like catching up with like long lost high school friends. Like everyone wants to know, well, what happened? You just said, did I die in Afghanistan? Like
It was a question, we had to address it.
You and Kendra, Sean and Kendra are hanging out.
Yeah. Oh, there she is.
Or with Terry, like I want to know like what's going on with Paige. I want to know what's going on with everyone. I think we all had compelling stories, and I think that it could happen. I don't know. I'd consider it. What do you guys think? Like,
I would love to come back and just have one scene with Allie, that ice cream boy scene. And because I followed Terry's footsteps, and literally since Degrassi, I've been modeling like full time since. And I just want to come back, and for everybody who has gone through that to know that what ice cream boy said followed through.
That's a very iconic. Someone sent me a GIF of that the other day. That's a very
right?
moment. Yeah.
It was a big moment.
We used to quote that like all the time. Ice cream boy. I mean, that was like huge for my high school experience. So I'm very glad that is being addressed.
What's the quote for those of us who were post that time?
Well, Terry she just started modeling as a plus size model. And there was a kid who was working at an ice cream stand, and he started to make fun of me. And I turned around and I said, I made $500 today as a plus size model. What do you make, ice cream boy? And it was so iconic. And I've had like gifts sent to me about that, like all the cool Degrassi edits that the fans do. And it was probably Terry's most recognizable scene that has been brought up to me since. So I want to come back and tell him, listen, ice cream boy, I'm still doing it.
Are there any other like scenes or quotes? I mean, Lauren, obviously I know the quote that you get the most happens at the January 1st. Are there any other quotes or scenes?
When in doubt, you kiss Craig. Let's
I'm not
back
mean.
to Adamo here.
We did get some questions about Marco kissing Craig, and they weren't all written by me. Some of them were genuinely people on Twitter who want to know if bisexual Craig was ever a real possibility on the show.
Writer?
I didn't think bisexual Paige was a reality, so I might even less there being bisexual Craig. No, I think that was just, Craig was such a good friend to Marco that he was there. He wouldn't care what Marco did. I don't think he was attracted to Marco, but I think he was there to support him. I mean, Marco, I was basically Marco and Emma in high school. So those two characters were channeled into that. And I would have loved to have had a friend like Craig.
What I think, I mean, at the time when we were shooting those episodes and the story of someone coming out and finding themselves was it was ahead of its time. There wasn't a lot of that on television, and what I loved is feeling like Marco could have a friend who was. It didn't matter that Craig was straight, whatever. Like, but he was Marco's best friend. Like, I just thought I felt like I don't know the word I'm looking for. I felt like an ally. I felt like it was such a positive friendship. Especially at that time on television, that the gay character wasn't isolated. I was really those are some of my favorite scenes actually with Craig and Adamo. I mean with Craig and Marco. Wow.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'd say
sorry, go ahead.
Just hopping on what Jake said, just there's some of my favorite storylines and favorite scenes ended up being like, I mean, I loved working with all my love interests, but some of my favorite scenes were friendship storylines or moments where friends were there for each other, because as a teenager, that's what really felt super, super honest for me, is like, yeah, you have crushes and you go on dates and like relationships are important to your teenage years, but so much of how you learn about yourself is through your friendships and through people in your life. And I had so many moments where I was like, this feels really special, this scene where I get to be there for my friend and I get to support them through what they're going through. And I was really grateful for those moments too. And I think that's another part of what makes Degrassi so special, is that it, you know, we have so much interconnectivity between all those characters. And that's really essential for so many of the storylines, and the way that we get to like have our moments in the sun. And then we also get to be a supporting character for someone else.
And that all goes back to the world that Linda created. I mean, this is the template that Linda started, 40 years ago, and let us come in and run with. So this balance between soap and issues and learning and fun, that's entirely because of Linda.
And one of the things I've been sort of hearing as I'm hearing all of you speak, and I just have to say what a joy it is to be reminded of some of those scenes that we've all done together over the years. But just hearing you talk about how it was a learning experience for you as actors, it's been something that has been really dear to my heart right back from 40 years ago, has always been to cast age appropriate. And that is not necessarily the smartest thing for a producer to do, because you'll see in a lot of American shows, you'll see a 25-year-old will be paying a 15-year-old. And there's a lot of good reason for that, because a 25-year-old is considered an adult, and through the union, they can work longer hours. We don't have to tutor them and all of that. But what I found is if you had a 15-year-old playing a 15-year-old, they bring 15 years of experience to the screen. If you take a 25-year-old playing a 15-year-old, they bring 25 years worth of experience to the scene, and knowledge and understanding that some of you said you were grappling with to figure out about your character. Well, the fact that as an actor, you too were trying to figure out where you stood on these issues and where you stood, it gave you such authenticity and such vulnerability that it's something that I think, I remember one time Teen Nick saying to me, this show could never have been produced in the States because we never would have done it with age appropriate casting. And so it's one of the, there's a lot of key tenets to Degrassi, but that's one of the ones that I think has really served us all well over the years.
That was my next question, actually. So basically, which was about age appropriate casting. I guess, but for the actors, to have been so young and doing the show, is it something that you ever look back on now? You can revisit your younger years, or would you rather kind of not necessarily see yourselves at 14 and 15 playing these characters?
Personally, because it was such a formative years to go from being 15 to 20, I actually can't look at any of those years. The only way I quantify it is through the seasons that we were on. I'm like, okay, 2011, that's season 11. What was I doing in my life at that point in time? But it was just, I don't know, growing up with people your own age, it was so much more than being on set together. It was the parties, the hangouts. I would see Monroe. I was at his house every single day for 4 years. So it's so much more than just the relationships you build on set, and having people that are in similar ages to you takes a little bit of that disconnect out. So it was beautiful.
One of the difficult things about casting age appropriate is, of course, after 5 years, you've got characters who are, in their final year. And I'm sure you all remember some of your final scenes on Degrassi. And I used to be in tears because, this would be, goodbye to Degrassi, goodbye to all your friends, and going off. And then a new generation of youngsters would be coming in underneath you and growing with the show.
Or you could be Stefan and you get to play the same character for a very long time, which is, an incredible honor.
Sure. Listen, I'll tell you right now, there's episodes every once in a while that are of Degrassi Junior High that are on, and I remember the storylines. I don't recognize myself, and that's scary. But it is, you know, but I do recognize a 14-year-old kid going through a storyline that feels super legit, totally embarrassing, zits and all, and that, like we said, is the template. A major part of the show is watching those kids go through something that is so awkward, and now it's, you know, there's a record of it, which is a blessing and a curse.
Do you feel like there are any teen shows in recent years that have sort of captured teen life in the same way that Degrassi has? I mean, obviously, you have the age-appropriate casting, you have some very intense storylines, but also it's sort of grounded in real relationships. Do you have any teen shows that you watch or that you have seen that you feel like capture that?
Sex Education, to me, I think it's one of the best things on TV. I think there's so many organic, authentic nuance that Degrassi brought to the table that they're bringing, and I think it's so raw and it's unapologetically real. And they really talk about real issues that high schoolers go through. I'm
such a good show. Such a good show.
Yeah, such a fan of it.
And I don't think shows like that, or like Euphoria or Generation, I don't think those would exist without Degrassi. I think Degrassi really laid the groundwork for them.
Yeah, I mean, even shows like Riverdale, very tonally different, very you know, a different kind of over the top. I would say, you know, still have roots in what you all did and sort of, you know, making such a formative teen show. I want to look back at the storylines. Was there any storyline that you think you would have done differently now? And this could be for, you know, writers, producers, or actors playing it. Is there anything that sort of, you know, if you were doing this in 2021, you might do it a little bit differently?
I mean, I'll just say, you know, looking back at some of the episodes, part of the reason why I sometimes find it hard to watch it is that my character, there was a lot of toxicity. You know, the way that Craig treats women. I don't know how that sort of aged. You know, it's funny because when we were shooting it, Linda, we talked a lot about this. I sometimes had trouble with some of those storylines, with the cheating storyline. But I wonder now, you know, if we were going to redo those storylines today, how the lens would change a little bit, how the story would change a little bit. Maybe some of the consequences for Craig might be a bit higher today than they were back then.
Well, I think you raise a really good point, because I often get asked about, you know, what stays the same, what's different as Degrassi goes on. And I think that there is like a core messaging about you are not alone, and, you know, it's an anti-bullying message. There's a lot of core concepts that are there, but I think what's kept Degrassi's longevity is that we've always been mindful of the times and the changing times. And you heard us talking about the abortion episodes earlier. Well, you know, the first one that we did, there were protesters there. She had to walk through protesters. The next one, there wasn't that degree of protest. And by the time we got to our third abortion episode, she has the abortion in the middle of the episode, and then she deals with the fallout and being shamed and then owning it. These storylines and so many of the others that you've talked about, they were from a particular moment in time. And even though like the emotions and the emotional fallout might be similar, you're quite right. Like the consequences, or even you just have to go back to Degrassi Classic before we had like the internet. And I mean, the way that Yick and Arthur got information about a wet dream was to go to a pay telephone holding a boom box where they spoke to Dr. Sally, who was Sue Johansson. And she said to them, oh, they said, what do you do when you wake up and you've kind of leaked overnight? And she says, oh, you had a wet dream. Well, that scene with a pay telephone and a boom box and all of that would never have happened, obviously, in Next Generation. But the whole notion about being respectful towards young people and how are they dealing with their bodies changing and is kind of constant throughout. So a long-winded way of saying, I think you're right, Jake.
Yeah, but there's a sensitivity to the times as well that I think Degrassi does well. I mean, if you look back to Manny flashing her boobs and it ending up on the internet, Peter, I think it was Peter that put them on the internet, and how she was chastised for it, and she was put into this she was called terrible names, and she was dealing with the fact of the slut shaming, and then you cut to like 10 years later, and we're dealing with dick pics and how a high school kid deals with selfies of nudity, and how we had to look at how a generation growing up with social media has we have to treat it with a sensitivity that didn't exist when Manny got in trouble. Now we're dealing with a whole generation that probably have done this. They probably sent some sort of Snapchat pic while in high school. And I just remember that by the time we got there, we looked back and we're like, how times have changed, but how the sensitivity to it was still the same, even though a kid, you couldn't tell that story 10 years later, you still couldn't tell the same story. And that's, I think, something that shows like how well Degrassi changes with the times, yet keeps true to its center.
Amazing. Well, we don't have much time left. I wish I could, talk to you all for a lot longer. I'm sorry that Heather Sinclair couldn't be here. There were a ton of fan questions I couldn't get to. But just to kind of wrap things up, if anyone wanted to jump in with a moment from the show, either an episode or a scene or something about their character or something about the writing that they're particularly proud of all these years later.
I, for one, the longer it's been since Degrassi wrapped, or our generation of Degrassi wrapped, and it gives you that much more perspective on what we were actually a part of, like how important and how special our childhoods were, and the bubble that we existed in at that point, that it means so much to people. I mean, I'm very active on Cameo, the app where you can get personalized messages or fans can send messages to people, and there's an intergenerational thing going on now where I would get children of fans buying gifts for their mom or their dad, and Spinner was their favorite character and they got me into the show, and I think this would mean so much. Or vice versa, you have parents buying it for their 15-year-olds, 12-year-olds who are like, yeah, I got her into Degrassi and now she's a big fan and Spinner's her favorite character. So it's just looking back on it, like when you're immersed in it, you know what you're a part of, but it's not until later that you really appreciate the I don't know, just what it meant to the culture of Degrassi. And I was just so proud to go into work every day and to know all of you and like the careers that you're a part of now. If you've left acting and moved on to other things, it's just been such a pleasure to have all of you as part of my life, and hopefully you feel the same about me. Yeah, it's just a little personal message to all of you.
Yeah, jumping on what Shane said, I think one of the biggest takeaways and the thing that still impacts me today is just how much of an impact the show had on our young audience. I think as an actor, you do lots of other jobs, but I think having an adolescent audience and having that younger audience who truly connects with characters and sees themselves in the show is so special. But it's also kind of a Spider-Man thing of like, with great power comes great responsibility. It's a huge responsibility on our shoulders, making this show and making it honest, but also not dangerous. I mean, I was very vocal when 13 Reasons Why came out because I felt like they did not carry that responsibility the way Degrassi did. And that's something that I've always been really proud of, is the way that the show took its time and was very thoughtful with our stories. Some people might say, oh, but everyone faces consequences and it's kind of, but I think that's really good. I think it's good to be teaching a lesson while also telling a story and being sensitive to these characters, because we're taking care of an audience who is also growing up and learning lessons and figuring out right from wrong. And that's always been something I've been really proud of and really grateful for. And also the way that the show has grown over the years. We haven't stuck in one age and one time of talking about an issue. We are continuing to grow and talk about those issues in a new way as new seasons come along.
I've been reflecting on the show now as a parent myself, because I have a child now, and yes, he's only 1.5, but I just going off what Aislinn said, I hope that, God, I hope the show does get another reboot for him to watch, because it's something that I feel comfortable with him seeing. That's I want him to have that. There's a lot of what we're seeing now is so, I don't know, aggressive. So many teen shows now feel just so aggressive, and Degrassi didn't feel that. So I hope he has something like that to watch. I feel okay knowing that he'll go back and he might be mortified of his mother one day going back and watching it, but I feel okay with him watching the show. I think he will actually learn something from the show. So, you know, it's a lens I never thought about looking at the show through, but now I am, and I feel good about it.
Well, that's a really beautiful way to wrap this up. I really want to thank you all for coming together, making my Degrassi dreams come true, making a lot of fans' dreams come true, and talking about, you know, a show that was so important to so many of us. So thank you all, and I can't wait to see what you all do next, and also the next iteration of Degrassi, whatever that might be.
Who knows?
Thank you, ATX.